Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it away. Tonight, we're gonna let it away. Tonight, we're gonna let it away. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it away. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it away. Tonight, we're gonna let it away. Tonight, we're gonna let it away. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it away.
Hey guys, how we doing tonight? Welcome in. Welcome in, welcome in. But welcome into Saturday Night Live. Hopefully you guys are having a great weekend or a great start to your weekend. Thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Welcome on in, everybody. We'll see who's all in the chat. It's good to see you guys. I'm usually in here a little bit before the live, but I didn't have a chance to pop in before tonight's live. So it's good to see everybody. Hey, Mary Beth. Hey, Princess. We got Mandy in here. And Southern Ish is here. Hey, Southern Ish. Hey, Cyber Warrior. Hey, Michael. Good to see you. Hey, baby girl. Sometimes if your notifications are on your phone, if you don't have them toggled on, like if you're using your phone through the app, sometimes they won't send you the notifications then. Maybe that's what it is. So let's see. We got Catherine, Mr. Rosebud, Ladybug. There's Ladybug. How was your night last night, Ladybug? Hey, Willows. It's good to see everybody. If you, yeah, I swear I've been putting these lives on later and later though. I usually have the thumbnail like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and it's been like 8 o'clock. So that could be it. I could be messing with YouTube's algorithm really bad. Hopefully not. Hey, Triple L. Hey, Tony. And thank you for becoming a member. I just saw that. Thank you. Vicky said, oh, Vicky's like, I got a notification. That's exciting. At least they were going out then. Hey, Tony. Hey, Classic One. It's good to see everybody in here tonight. Hey, PKC. Hey, Suan. Does anybody have any really awesome weekend plans? Hey, Micro. Hey, Rye Davis. Hey, Aries. It's good to see everybody. Look, it's even good to see Nightbot. Hey, Jesse's girl. Hey, Wicked. So I did listen to some stuff today. I listened to a lot of stuff actually. So we got some stuff to talk about with Idaho 4, which I mean, there's not any, we don't have any shortage there. I feel like it, but you know, well, it's always good to repay it back. That's awesome. So I got my own triple L. I'm like that on, I don't have my gifts turned on. So I'm always like, if I'm a member there, then, I'm like, it's saying a lot. It's saying a lot because, and I'm always on my phone. And so with the iPhone, you have to go like a weird way. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird. Hey, Tish. So thank you, Aries. Vincent said, is that your pajamas? I was like, actually, these are not pajamas, but I could totally see how he would think that. Hey, Olga. Hey, George. I was like, thanks for saying my outfit looked like pajamas. I've been waiting to wear this for like 3 weeks now because it hasn't been warm enough to wear shorts. So it's like a two-piece set. But he was like, oh, you look like you're wearing pajamas. And I was like, I think it's the stripes. Look, and I've got toothpaste on me. I'm a mess. Look at me. Just we just cover it with my hair. Hey, at least you know I brush my teeth. Okay. Put this up and then I'll take it back down for a minute. That's so funny. I do have a little bit. You can see it right there in the camera. You can see what am I going to do? These are comfy clothes. I ain't gonna lie though. I do have some cute pajamas and don't think I won't wear them on this live. And I'll say these are pajamas when they are pajamas. Thanks, Tony. I think I'm gonna get my nails done tomorrow blue. I think I don't know if I'll get them done, but Vincent told me to go get them done. He said I should because I never do. So he's a good man. I think it's been actually like 3 years, so it's been a while. I haven't been watching the NFL draft. I sometimes just like to not watch the draft. Actually, I usually do like to watch the draft, but I haven't this year. Is there anybody that I should know about? I've been seeing it all over X. Hey, Courtney. Okay. We have some new names in the group, Ladybug. Isn't that exciting? I love it when new people come, when they find us. So what we're going to talk about tonight is basically a weekly, like a recap of everything that we kind of heard or the documents that come out, and we're just going to kind of go over all of it. I did listen today to the interview that Steve Goncalves did with Daniel over with Drunk Turkey. And there were a few things in there that I was like, oh, we didn't know that before, or oh, that's new. So I did clip a little bit. I tried to just like pause it and then like play when I needed to. So hopefully it clipped okay. But we'll go through that. Also, Nancy Grace came out and did a video yesterday. And I was going to play it last night, but we were already doing our interview series. So I figured I'd save it for tonight. And then also all the other stuff that's just coming out in this case. It's been pretty entertaining. So we have Howard Bloom back out on the scene. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't know who he knows. I don't know how he's getting the information he's getting, but he's getting information somehow for all of his, air mails and his book. We read the book on the channel actually. So I figured we'll just do an Idaho 4 recap. So I want to know, first off, why is Bryan Kohberger's mom like encouraging him to plead not guilty? If she sees the mountain of evidence that, a lot of people see against him, don't you think that she would want him to maybe try to take some sort of deal? She had written that that Reddit post or whatever it was. I found it off Reddit, but I don't know if it was from Reddit, but she had written a post about not wanting the death penalty, being like anti-death penalty. This was years and years and years ago when he was like a teenager. She wrote that. So for her to go out and say like, she's not for the death penalty, you'd think she might want her son to take like a plea deal or try to get a plea deal, I guess. But if he can't get a plea deal, then, I guess this is the next best thing. Plead not guilty. Because she's crazy too. She could be. We haven't seen her at all. How come no one's seen her? What happened? Hey, you're grabbing other stuff. I thought something happened. Hey, Squeaky. Right? They actually brush your teeth. Yeah, that's what I do. I do it too, just so people think, because I'm like, that's way easier than actually brushing them, I was trying not to get into my hair earlier. That was the problem. So I'm going to read over this article here and we'll forget about my toothpaste. But family insiders tell me how Idaho suspect Bryan Kohberger's mother is secretly sabotaging his defense, forcing lawyers to take a wild gamble, writes Howard Bloom. And I haven't seen where he's written this. I scanned through this article today. I got the gist of what it was supposed to be saying, but I looked on airmail and there's no new airmail. Okay, so for 2 intense days in a Boise courtroom last week, the prosecution and defense in the forthcoming trial of Bryan Kohberger, the 30-year-old graduate student accused of brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students in an off-campus home, engaged in a combative back and forth with a multitude of crucial evidentiary issues. And we do have some, it says right here, we don't have like issues from the judge, but we do have some. And while the judge has not yet issued his written opinions on many of the dozens of hotly contested motions that were argued, I, a longtime reporter on the case, listened and reached a startling conclusion. Oh, he wrote this. Son of a gun. You know what I was thinking? You know who I was thinking wrote this article this whole time? And she doesn't even work for Airmail or Daily Mail anymore. What's her name? The girl with the dark hair, and she was like all over the Idaho 4 case. Her name was like Caitlin Becker. I think she works for News Nation now. And Howard Bloom is writing for the Daily Mail. Is that sound right? Like, you go from Airmail, where you have to pay like $70 a year for that crap, to working for an, I mean, is that bad? Is that like going down? I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. I mean, I read Daily Mail a lot, so I can't say much, but they do get it wrong. Okay. So maybe this is how we got the job. So one of the defense's primary arguments against the death penalty is, I believe, a ploy. A ploy, you say? It seems to me that Mr. Kohberger's lawyers understand the evidence against their client, despite all their protests to the contrary, convincing, even overwhelming. There is no getting around the fact that the small bit of touch DNA found on a knife sheath found on the bed of one of the murder victims is a match to the DNA found on the cheek swab of Mr. Kohberger taken in Pennsylvania jail after his arrest. Yeah, this doesn't even sound like Howard Bloom. Like, he uses all those big words that nobody knows what they mean or how to pronounce them. And it's not, I can read very well. The words that he uses, nobody uses them. So they must have told him to dumb it down a little. But it says, and while Kohberger's defense team has indicated that they will argue that a still unknown perpetrator or perpetrators were responsible for bringing the sheath already implanted with his DNA in the house, I am convinced that argument will be laughed down by a jury. The state realizes this too, and so all along, they've also shrewdly been laying the groundwork for an alternative yet unarticulated strategy. For the defense has submitted several filings supported by expert witnesses and psychiatric evidence, including neuroimaging, arguing that Mr. Kohberger is autistic. And rumor has, I think his mom brought the paperwork. The ostensible reason for this evidence is the contention that their client's autism spectrum disorder leaves him too impaired to have to face, if convicted, a death sentence. That, in their judgment, would constitute cruel and unusual punishment. And indeed, Idaho recently has passed a bill making firing squads the primary method of execution for just, I suspect, this very case. No, it's not for this very case. They don't like that kind of stuff. That's not true. But to date, Judge Stephen Hippler hasn't given these arguments much truck, empathetically dismissing one after another, yet the defense keeps on filing new versions of the same defeated motions. And here it is, I believe, why. Let's see what he has to say. That ASD ain't gonna fly. No, it's not. No, certainly not. They are well aware that they were not going to persuade the judge in an Idaho courtroom that autism spectrum behavior requires him to take the death penalty off the table, or that a PhD candidate at a distinguished university with 119 IQ, according to his own lawyers, a student who a professor in his master's program at DeSales University described as one of her top students in 10 years of teaching, is mentally impaired. but they are in the carefully argued process, making it clear that their autistic client is a difficult one. Well, I don't I don't think that he's not. He probably is. She probably does ask him questions and he doesn't give her maybe straightforward answers. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And but if that's the case, Brian, you better open up your trap and get together a defense. I mean, if you're going to go through with all this trial and everything, you're going to put the families through all of this, at least put up a defense, don't just say I was driving around. Like, come on. You planned out everything. Did you not plan out this part? He didn't plan this part out. It wasn't planned. So that's why it's all messy. Because if he was really that smart, he would have planted someone else's DNA. I don't think he would have planted his own. I don't think it would have been on a knife sheath. I think that he would have put it. I think somebody in CODIS, he would have had a hit in CODIS. We wouldn't have been doing no IgG genetic genealogy, investigative genealogy stuff to get to him. So it says here that, where were we at? Specifically, they claim that he refuses to help them establish a reasonable alibi for where he was at the time of the murders. In fact, they assert that he doesn't even fully comprehend the gravity of the charges that have been filed. Now, there's no way. There's no way. Another complicating factor here is that sources, the alibi maybe, but I think that he knows the gravity. Complicating factor here is that sources close to Kohberger's family tell me that Kohberger's mother, Mary Ann, is encouraging her son to plead not guilty in the face of mountains of evidence. And so I predict it may very well happen at some point this summer when the case against Mr. Kohberger is at last being fully revealed. His desperate lawyers will play the card they've kept up their sleeve. They will appeal to the court that their uncooperative, uncompromising client is preventing them from doing what's in his best interest. His autism prohibits him from making reasonable decisions. Therefore, they will want to take the decision-making power out of his hands. They are not going to be able to do that. Despite their client's protest, they will ask the court to allow a guilty plea with the hope that in return, the state will forego the death penalty and accept a life sentence. I've been saying this all along since the beginning of this case, that he's going to try to take a plea deal at the end, but I don't think he really will. I don't know. The closer we get to trial, the more I'm like backing away from that. But maybe. Maybe he'll see the evidence, and when he's sitting in his jail cell at night, he's thinking about it. Will this happen? And if it does, will we be deprived of the surprises and revelations of a summer trial? I don't care if we're deprived of a trial. If that's what's good for the families, At this point, nearly 2.5 years since the murders occurred, all that is certain is that a tense, high-stakes drama is at last going to be played out in a Boise courtroom. And yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't know, Jody. There's a lot of new stuff coming out that's just insanity. Like they could see her now. They never said they couldn't see Xana or anyone. We just assumed, because no one told us. But from listening to the interview that Steve did, he seems pretty like sure that they have the right guy and that there's gonna be a lot more surprises once we get closer to trial, or when we go to trial, which I'm sure we will. I'm sure. We're already getting surprises. Just think, a couple months ago, we didn't have the 911 call. We didn't have them texting. We didn't have, we didn't know for sure, 1,000% that Hunter was the one that, was in the house with them. Now we're finding out that Hunter walked in the house and grabbed a knife. Why? Was he because if Xana was just passed out on the floor, they thought she was just sleeping. Why would they need a knife? I don't know. Maybe they were scared. Maybe that, I don't know. Maybe they did see some stuff and it didn't click in their head, but it did, and they were in shock. I don't know. Shock is a powerful thing. I will tell you that. Yeah, this just came out, I believe, what, a couple days ago, day or two ago. I watched it and then gonna watch it with you guys now. Hey Harlow, welcome in. And welcome in everybody. Hey Diane. Oh, I bet she did. I bet you I mean, she kind of has to. She's like, that's her thing, but you know. Oh, Monchichi, I'm so sorry. That's the worst. I'm sorry. You should make little, like, take little post-it notes and write down like little cute little affirmations, things that you don't want her to forget, or stories you don't want her to forget, or she wouldn't want to forget, and keep them for her, and then read them to her. I just have a post-it thing here, and I just thought of that. That'd be a good idea. You could read her like one a week or something. Okay, I'm gonna play Nancy. She's on fire tonight. She's wearing yellow. She's really on fire. Okay, if you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button for me, and I'll get this playing.
Name is Bryan Kohberger's own mother secretly torpedoing his defense. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something's happening in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122 King Road.
Joining us, an all-star panel, but straight out to the author who has written the definitive book on the Kohberger trial, Howard Bloom, joining us. Howard, question: what is the report all about that Kohberger's own mother is sabotaging his defense?
Bryan Kohberger's mother does not want to admit that her son is guilty. She is telling him and everyone involved in the defense team she has no intention of settling this case. She wants it all to go to trial, even though two things are looming over the case.
I'm very curious, Howard Bloom, why the mother would gamble with her son's life since he is facing the firing squad.
First, this is the death penalty, which is now going to end in a firing squad. Idaho has passed a law requiring that the death penalty be serviced by a firing squad. The second thing is that the evidence against Bryan Kohberger is pretty convincing. You just have to go to this one salient fact. They have DNA from the knife sheath that matches DNA taken from a cheek swab after his arrest. So the defense is doing everything they can to save Kohberger, not just from a guilty verdict, but from the death penalty. And hovering over all this is Kohberger's mother, trying to say, putting down her foot and saying, no, she does not want to cross that Rubicon where her son might be a mass murderer.
I'm going to get to the rest of the family. Where does the dad stand on this? Where do the sisters stand on this? Remember, the sisters are the ones that suspected Kohberger, their own brother, at the get-go and voiced those concerns, and the parents beat them down, according to reports. Straight out to the panel, Josh Ritter joining me, high-profile criminal defense attorney, joining us out of LA, host of Courtroom Confidential. Josh, thank you for being with us. This is greatly hampering the defense ability to maneuver, because if the mother is behind the scenes going HELLNO, there will not be a guilty plea, she's setting her own son up for the firing squad. So when you've got, it reminds me of a case that I consulted on in Fulton County. It wasn't my case, but I was watching it. A young man murdered his mother, who happened to be a sitting judge, Judge Josephine Holmes Cook. All right. Been a defense attorney for years, got on the bench. The family kept saying, don't plead to the son. They offered him a really light sentence, which I disagreed with. But that said, he listened to the family. He got convicted. He got life behind bars. That's what I'm talking about. What about it, Josh?
Well, it's about as high stakes a game as you could possibly be playing, because we are talking about the death penalty here. This isn't a matter of, you know what, let me take my chances. Let me see what the evidence actually is. We heard from the author just there. And one thing I'll take issue with is he talked about the evidence against him. I haven't seen any evidence. So far what we're talking about is alleged
Pick him
evidence.
up, please.
With the
I got to
prosecution,
see if
with
he
the
actually has a
prosecution,
straight face when he's saying that. Well, I want to watch you. I want to see your demeanor. Okay.
yeah.
What did you just say? Did you actually say you haven't seen any evidence indicating guilt?
I haven't seen an exhibit marked in court. I haven't seen a witness taken the stand under oath. So far, I mean, we live in America where they're presumed innocent. Right now, there is no evidence. But in this game that is being played, this game of chicken, we're not just talking about somebody going to prison for the rest of their life. We're talking about somebody who might possibly be facing the firing squad. So I absolutely do understand why the family pressures are going to be something that's very difficult for his defense team to be handling. If they're trying to negotiate some sort of a plea that avoids him receiving the capital punishment, the greatest punishment we have in this country, that is, I think, their first and foremost goal in this whole thing, is just to try to save their client's life.
You know, to Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us. Guys, for those of you just joining us, apparently Mommy Kohberger is torpedoing her son's defense case, demanding that they go to trial to prove his innocence. Okay, you know what? Can love be that blind, Dr. Bethany? With me, Dr. Bethany Marshall, renowned psychoanalyst out of the California jurisdiction, author of Deal Breaker. You can see her now on Peacock and find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Question: love that blind? That she can't see the evidence, and all that Josh Ritter just said is blah, 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 blah. Of course he's presumed innocent. He's just throwing that out there as a fallback. Yes, he's presumed innocent, but the rest of that phrase is unless and until the state pierces the presumption of innocence with evidence. Okay, they always leave that part out, but unless he wants to argue DNA isn't real, Josh Ritter has a problem. Blind love, Bethany, blind love.
Not only does this mother have blinders on, Nancy, but I would imagine that this family has a long and storied history of those two sisters being concerned about their brother, pointing out his symptoms, trying to get some kind of psychological help for him, and the mother shooting them down, not believing them. You know, I find that in families, sometimes the parents idealize the most disturbed child. So you'll have two kids who are really functioning highly in society, are bright. You'll have one child who's maybe personality disordered, maybe a sociopath, and the parent chooses to put that child on a pedestal. It's as if the idea that that child needs help is just unfathomable for them. So I think this mother, unfortunately, is not in reality. And as you pointed out earlier, she's going to hurt her son in some way through this pushing the defense attorneys.
And let me point out one more thing, Dr. Bethany. He's the baby. He's the baby of the family, the golden boy, the only boy. Okay, so I don't know how that works in the mother-son dynamic. I don't know that, but it means something. I'm just a trial lawyer, but I know enough to know that the baby is coddled. The only boy is very often elevated, like you're saying. But, you know, Chris McDonough, let me go to you. Unlike Dr. Bethany, who comes at it from a psychological angle, you and I have seen so many murder cases. I can't even count the number of cases I investigated, tried, or covered. Same with you. McDonough, director, Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective, having worked over 300 homicides during his career. Also, star of The Interview Room. Chris, let's just break down all that Bethany just said. I've seen so many mothers, well, practically every mother of a defendant, they tried to fight me, physically fight me in the courtroom to defend their son. They don't believe their baby could do it. The looks I've gotten, if looks could kill, I mean, the jury has to see everything going on in the courtroom, and the mom is always front seat, right behind the son who's charged with murder, crying and carrying on, acting like they're going to pass out. Are you surprised the mother is saying, no, you're not pleading because you didn't do it? Forget the DNA. It happens all the time, Chris.
Absolutely, Nancy. And isn't it
Would you would you guys tell your kid to do that? Like to plead not guilty? I mean, if you knew they did it, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I don't have kids. And a mother-son bond. I mean, I know that's unreal. You know, that's like something in this world that is like, you just don't have that. Not everybody has that. And I can see that being the daughter, you know. Because I can see my mom just being like, we're gonna hide you out, or so I don't even know. I think my mom would be too shocked. She would have been in an earlier grave. Like, you know what I mean? She wouldn't have been able to handle that. Yeah, no, yeah, she hasn't been to court. No, she's not sitting behind him. She's not there. She might be on Zoom. We're not sure. I don't know if they've been on Zoom. I'm assuming they have. I'm hoping for Bryan Kohberger's sake, because like I want him to have a fair shake in all this, you know, and I don't want his parents like bowing out too early. I want them to know like if he did it or not. I want them to be confident.
interesting that that type of unconditional love is that blind? I mean, remember, let's go back to the point that she wrote an op-ed defending, the death penalty against Ted Bundy, of all people. So, we have to think through that and say, okay, well, what was the trigger between the mother and the son that has caused her, to defend him in such a fashion? Now, granted, that's her son. We get that piece of the puzzle, but I think the evidence is going to be damning for the family.
I think you meant she attacked the death penalty in an
Yeah.
op-ed, even though the death penalty was for Ted Bundy. I interviewed some of his survivors, changed their lives forever, not in a good way. Joe Scott, I'm going to get right to you, but I want to find out from Howard Bloom about the rest of the family. Okay, we know where the mom stands, Howard, but what about the dad?
I am hearing from people close to the Kohberger family, from people close to the legal teams, that the real resistance is coming from Brian's mother. His father is sort of going with the flow. Neither one of them wants to admit that their son is guilty.
And I believe your information, Howard Bloom, author of the definitive book as of now on Bryan Kohberger, When the Night Comes Calling. Okay, so that's the mom. The dad is kind of just following her lead.
Is it calling or falling?
What about the sisters, Howard Bloom?
The sisters are a different case from the parents. One of them is a psychologist, a family psychologist. The other one, an aspiring actress. They're both can confront the reality, it seems, with a lot more focus and a lot more pain, perhaps, than the parents. They realize what is happening. But one sister raised questions originally with the father over the long Christmas vacation after their father and son trip across country. She raised questions about
It's gonna just stop.
her brother, Bryan Kohberger.
Okay, I couldn't get it just okay. I'm gonna look it up because I couldn't find my book in there. Howard Bloom book. Right here. When the Night Comes Falling. Didn't she say calling? I'm about to say I always try to correct Nancy when she's wrong. I do try to stick on it because Nancy does say some things that are wrong. I think she did say it wrong. I'm sorry. It's not that funny, but it is. If you know Howard Bloom and you know his writing, and like it's making me cry because I've read so many hours and hours of his writings, and they're not fun. Just go read an Airmail article.
And when she raised this to the father, what did the father do? According to my sources, he just walked out of the room. He could not deal with it.
I'm not surprised. Joining me is Sydney Sumner, Crime Stories investigative reporter on the case from the very beginning. Sydney, let's think back for a moment. We were first covering the raid on the family's Poconos home. Remember, and they found Kohberger wearing shorts or underwear, but knowing him,
He was wearing
probably
both.
shorts, okay, and plastic gloves, rubber gloves, and he was sorting through trash and putting trash in individual plastic bags, or so we've been told, and wait for it, then throwing away the trash in the neighbor's the neighbor's
The
big
Kirby
outdoor
Kirby.
trash bin.
I never heard that.
At that time, as I recall, the sisters started asking then, hey, I think he did it. What do you think? What do you remember that at the very beginning, Sid?
Yeah, Nancy. So that's what the reports are saying now is that his sisters were immediately suspicious after hearing news of what was going on in Moscow. They had that description of the car not long after Kohberger got home for Christmas. And they looked at their brother, they looked at his car, and they were immediately concerned that he was somehow involved. And as Bloom said, his sources are saying that the parents completely shut those arguments down from the sisters, would not even entertain a conversation about it. And days later, the FBI shows up at their house to arrest Brian. And now we know the defense is going to blame this odd behavior with the trash on Kohberger's OCD diagnosis. So he's going to say, this is an unusual behavior for me. It may have looked odd, considering I have just been implicated in this crime, but I always handle my trash weird. I have germophobia, I have OCD behaviors that require me to do this, or I feel anxiety and stress.
Okay, Sydney, you're scaring me a little bit because you sound like you actually believe that. Okay, just a quick answer from Dr. Bethany Marshall. Did you hear what Sydney just said? That
Yes.
he's going to try to explain away his behavior of wearing plastic gloves or rubber gloves at what, 3 a.m.? Wasn't it 3 a.m., Sid? Some crazy time when they were watching him from outside, walking around the house on the inside?
Mm-hmm.
3 a.m. Okay, so how can you explain? He's not getting rid of his trash. He's separating his parents' trash at his parents' Poconos home, wearing plastic gloves, probably a face covering too, putting it in plastic bags, and I bet they were baggies, sealable baggies, don't know that yet, and putting it in the neighbor's trash. How can that be OCD? That's getting rid of evidence, Bethany. Hey, Reader's
Listen to
Digest
Bethany right
answer,
here.
not the full volume.
I have never seen an OCD patient engage in this kind of behavior. And if he did have OCD, he would be avoiding the trash, not going towards it.
Thank you. That's all I got to say about that trash. Because I've been screaming this for years. You would not be going, if you are OCD, you are not going to be taking your trash and rebagging it. Nope, not happening. Not going to happen. Never going to happen.
Okay, here's another thing. To Joe Scott Morgan, joining me, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on
I guess you could have an OCD towards trash, but I don't think that's a thing.
on Amazon,
being,
death investigator, over 1,000 investigations under his belt, and star of a hit podcast, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. Joe Scott,
you're withering away.
Separating the trash, putting it in little baggies, throwing it in the neighbor's trash. Could any of that disruption of the evidence possibly destroy DNA evidence? And cops watched him vacuuming, spraying with 409 or Comet, cleaning out his car. What does it take to get rid of DNA evidence? But you got to address, is it hair? Is it fiber? Is it blood? Is it touch? Respond.
Well, when you're talking about these categories of potential evidence or DNA rich evidence that are there, the first thing, I think probably the first thing that's the most fragile is going to be any components of hair, because you can lose it pretty quickly. Even a strong gust of wind can blow it away. Probably second along that is going to be any kind of touch DNA. We have to remember that touch DNA actually presents as a result of dead, sloughing skin cells. So if you have dry skin, you can appreciate how easily that can be lost very quickly.
tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she not wake me up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
Joining us an all-star panel straight out to Howard Bloom, author of the definitive book on the Idaho murders, When the Night Comes Falling. Howard, we're talking about the mother torpedoing the defense. And I've got to move on very quickly because there's so much happening in the courtroom. But do you believe any of the family is going to take the stand? That's a very, very tricky question because it could open up his Kohberger's reputation, his past. If the family says one slip up, all that's going to come into evidence, okay? Because it will be deemed the defense brought it up. And also, what am I hearing about Kohberger's sister is writing a book?
I think, and again, this is just my hypothesis, that Brian's sister, who is a psychologist, will be put on the stand. I think, and what I'm hearing is she might even confirm her brother's purchase of the Amazon knife from Amazon and that she's seen him with it. But that, again, I can't say that for a fact, but this is what I am hearing. And I also think that she is writing a book on this case. I've heard that too. And so she's been delving into this with a bit more objectivity, a bit more sensitivity.
He's saying, according to Howard Bloom, I don't know if it's Bloom or Blum, Bryan Kohberger's sister, the one that has the one that works for the mental health, that worked for the men, like, you know, she's psychiatry, something along those lines. Apparently she's writing a book. Now, is this going to be from like the point of view of her being a sister to somebody that's on trial for murder? Or is this going to be a point of view from a sister of a killer because she knows he did it and she's going to say that in the book? Or, I mean, the case hasn't even went to trial yet and she's going to be writing a book about this? Like, if that was me and my brother, I mean, there's just some things you just wouldn't do. You know what I mean? Yeah, your brother did it. Maybe not go to court and let him, you know, do his thing. Like, after he's in jail, then maybe write the book. But writing the book, I mean, that's as bad as Howard Bloom. You know? Thank you, Southernish. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. I wouldn't be writing anything either. I mean, but that's what any defendant or defense lawyer will tell you, or any good lawyer, any good lawyer will tell you, just to be quiet. Just don't say anything. I think his mom and dad have been doing a pretty good job. Sisters, well, I don't know how Howard's getting this information, but he's getting it.
Sensitivity to the family.
I could see him like behind the like random trees in the Poconos, like with his little notepad, like, and then popping out, like getting people.
Drama she's living through, and I think the defense will, not the defense, rather the prosecution will put her on the stand to try to get the answers they're seeking.
Now, I'm very curious about how the sister is going to testify regarding Bryan Kohberger ordered the knife, that was him, because we know the defense is going to argue, wait for it, a shared Amazon account. But that's it. Can I just focus on the book? The sister is writing a book. Oh, please, 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 someone put her on the stand. Josh Ritter, that opens up a whole can of worms for cross-examination. The sister may now have a pecuniary interest in the money interest in the outcome of this trial. Did nobody learn anything from Becky Hill, the clerk in the Murdaugh case? Remember, Murdaugh murdered his wife Maggie and son Paul. Okay, in that case, the clerk of court, Becky Hill, who seemed like a perfectly wonderful person, reportedly said comments to the jury that the defense claims, made them come back with a guilty verdict. Yeah, I don't believe that. She may have made offhand comments, maybe even in jest, but they voted the way they wanted to vote. That said, she wrote a book, and she was drawn and quartered over writing a book, suggesting that somehow she had a money motive in the outcome of this trial, that she said things to the jury to make them reach a certain verdict so she could make money. It's kind of preposterous that she could think that far in advance. I don't think that happened. Do I think there'll be a new trial? Yes. Do I think it really happened? No. Same thing
Nancy, don't say
here,
that.
Josh.
Do you guys think Alec Murdaugh is really going to get another trial? I ain't doing that again. I ain't sitting through another one then. That was terrible. Can't get her to play now. Uh-oh, I scared Nancy.
Well, in that
There we
case,
go.
too, that's such a great example. It led to near disaster for the prosecution because the defense was able to make great hay of it. I mean, these are no small problems. Anytime you're calling a witness as the prosecution, you're hoping that that person is coming in with no motivations, no biases that exist outside of court. Well, as you point out, Nancy, what bigger interest could somebody have but that they look to gain money off of this? They look to profit off of this. They look to profit perhaps even by the outcome of it, but certainly by the story of it. It's not a problem to be lightly dismissed. I think it's definitely something the prosecution's going to have to deal with.
The significance of putting the sister on the stand for so many reasons, watching him clean out his car immediately after the murders, obsessively, him cleaning out the trash, wearing plastic gloves, sorting it, and using the neighbor's trash disposal, but also a shared Amazon account. Is this really happening? Do they think the jury will believe what? The aging mother and father ordered a K-bar knife? Listen to the defense.
It's misleading that the way that you just portray it, that because there is a purchase in a household account, that is automatically attributable to him, and that there's somehow
a purchase
intent.
in a household account. It's attributable under his particular name in the account, as I understand it. Now, could somebody else in the family get to it? I don't know. I suppose your expert will tell us that. But I'm not sure how that is excluded, and I'm not sure how that's expert testimony.
Sydney Sumner, you've combed over every word that went down in the courtroom. The defense is arguing that there was a joint account on Amazon, and maybe somebody else ordered the K-bar knife and sheath. You know, it reminds me of Top Mom Casey Anthony. Okay, that's a nightmare right there. But remember, she did that damning search on how to make homemade chloroform, and her daughter, little Kelly, according to the state, was drugged unconscious and died in the mom's trunk. All right. Her mother, Top Mom's mother, Cindy Anthony, gets on the stand and claims she was doing a search for chlorophyll because of bamboo growing in the backyard. I don't know how they did that, to take the heat off Tot Mom. Okay, so I guess the theory here is somebody else in the family on a shared Amazon account ordered the K-bar knife and sheath, and then Sydney, they went back and ordered a replacement knife when the first one got lost in a murder, and then tried to delete the Amazon order history. Really? Is that what they're claiming?
Yes, they are. And in their filing last month, giving more detail into this argument, they mentioned that other camping gear was purchased, a backpack, a tire repair kit, things of that nature. So they're suggesting that, oh, this was a usual purchase. This was a camping type purchase and not necessarily attributable to Brian because they share this family account. And what's interesting about that, I do the same thing. I share an Amazon account with my family. And I recently realized that, oh, you can set up a separate account that's under this household account that uses your name particularly. So instead of shopping as my mother or my father, I can shop as myself, and my purchase history is separate than the other people on that household account. So they're going to try and say that, oh, somebody else was using Brian's account. And that just makes no sense. Why would somebody else in his family go out of their way to specifically shop as Brian and then have it delivered to Brian and not someone else in the family? That's what they're going to try and say, and I don't think it's going to hold any water.
Josh Ritter, she's right. And can I also say, Ritter, that I'm so happy right now at the prospect of the defense calling the mom and the dad, I guess up in their 70s at this juncture. I'm not sure about that.
Close
To
to it.
try to put them on the stand to claim they ordered the camping gear, they ordered the K-bar. I mean, if they put that defense up, the state is going to rebut and bring on in rebuttal every single family member that had access to that Amazon account and say, did you order the K-bar knife and have it shipped to Bryan Kohberger? They're not going to lie about that under oath. I hope they do it. Nothing can make me happier, Ritter.
Listen, the defense is holding the prosecution's feet to the fire here. If they want to say he bought a knife on this account and lo and behold, that account is shared by others, well, then they better be able to back it up and prove that, in fact, it was him purchasing it. Now, the idea that one account can have several different logins and that you can track that login to a particular individual, sure, that sounds like evidence that's pointing towards that direction. But who else is able to access those different sub accounts? Does that mean that you have to have a unique login information and password? I don't know. The problem is we don't know the problem, and
Okay,
therefore
you know
the
what?
defense
I'm a
is
little
making sure that
surprised
the
at you, Ritter,
prosecution
because you're
proves it.
totally losing my point. My point. Let me break it down for you, Ritter, as if you need
Please,
my help.
please.
Fine. Go ahead, defense. In fact, I insist you bring it up in the opening statement that somebody else could have ordered the K-bar knife. Yes, it's on the state to prove he did it, but you just heard Sydney sum it up in about 3 sentences. It was very convincing. Go ahead. I'd be mad if you didn't, because once you do that, the state is going to bring on everybody on that family account and ask them under oath, did you order it? Did you order it? Did you order it? Did you order it? And when every family member, all 4 of them, say, no, I didn't order it, then the defense looks like a big fat liar, and so does Bryan Kohberger. So is that what you want, Ritter?
Or they say, I don't know. You're talking about purchases made years ago. You're talking about we make several purchases, including camping equipment, including things like
years ago.
knives. Is it impossible that I ever purchased a knife in the past? Would I have a specific memory of it? I don't know what they're going to testify to.
No. Look, somebody may fall for that BS in court, but I'm not falling for it. I appreciate what you're doing. It's very artful. It's wily like a fox. But Joe Scott Morgan, you hear Ritter comparing apples and oranges right here. And that works a lot of time. It made my head blow off in the courtroom because I couldn't jump in like I'm doing right now. This is not about what may have been ordered 3 years ago. This is about what was ordered just before 4 students were slaughtered, butchered in their beds by a K-bar knife, by a knife matching the one Kohberger ordered. So, Joe Scott, the knife, you want to tell me a knife this size, a military knife? Let's see a picture of the knife, please, control room. That Mama and Papa bought the knife. Sister, the one writing the book, the shrink, the other one, what? They bought a knife just before the murders and had it shipped to Kohberger. Tell us about the knife.
Why does this knife look so much bigger than the knife sheath? Is anyone else seeing that? I am. Yeah, it was bought in the spring before, I think May or something.
It's a combat knife, Nancy, and our troopers have carried it since literally prior to World War II. I don't understand the utility of it in a common household. And I think one of the things that we're kind of skipping over here, we keep talking about ordering. I want to know about delivery. Where was it delivered to? Was there any contact with the person it was delivered to? I'd be interested to know if we're going to have a driver that's going to get up on the stand and make testimony. I don't know how they'll keep track of all that sort of thing, but there will be a tracking relative to this. We're tracking who's ordering the thing, but who took delivery of it? When did it show up? Where did it show up? All of these little intricacies are going to be playing into this as well, Nancy.
Hey, what about this? A lot of drivers, Uber, Amazon have, like cops, have dash cam video going on. I wonder if that has been retrieved, or I'm trying to remember, and I think I have it in my notes. When I went to Kohberger's Pullman apartment, spoke to all of his neighbors, I'm pretty sure I saw cameras. I'm not sure because I looked at so many places. But if there is surveillance from that day, from that delivery, man, that would be a bombshell. But here is the fly in the ointment. At the time the knife was ordered, it was 8 months before the murders. Okay, so at that time, Kohberger was not yet living in Pullman. His daddy hadn't driven him out there and tried to make friends for him, right? He actually went to neighbors saying, hey, could you befriend my son? He's very much of a loner. So anyway, the knife did go to the family's place. Now, wait. Sidney Sumner, I may have an answer for that. After the murders, isn't it true that someone went online to order a replacement knife? Was that replacement knife ever delivered?
No, Nancy, a replacement knife was never purchased, but in the week after the homicides, somebody did go online on that shared Kohberger family account and look at similar knives to the one that was used allegedly in the murders.
Okay, in Sydney, isn't it true that someone also went on and tried to delete the Amazon search history? I know for a fact that that's possible because Santa.
I'm going to ask Vincent really quick what I had to sign for Amazon because it was something so stupid the other day. It was that bad. It was like they used to do so Amazon used to be like, I heard this from somebody that was like UPS, and they said they all kind of worked, like they all kind of followed the same like guidelines or whatever. They can, they can deliver it and they can, leave it at your door as long as it's not like a cell phone or like concert tickets. It was supposed to be like, I guess, like things that people could, like small things people could snake right off your porch. But I mean, people could take anything off of a porch. But I do remember having to sign for something. It was so, I know what it was. A birthday card the other day, a birthday card. It was a birthday card. I was so mad. I was like, you could have left the birthday card. I needed to send it out. I wonder if it was just something like that they were doing because mine was this month. Mine just happened.
Tries to delete the search history so the Christmas recipients don't see the search history on the shared Amazon account. See, this jury's going to know all of this, the ins and out. Did someone try to delete the search history?
That's also correct. We're still trying to get some more details on that timeline. Again, all of this will come out much more clearly during the trial, but we believe the time is that it was purchased 8 months before the murders. At some point after that knife is delivered, somebody tries to go in and delete record of that purchase. And then a week after the murders, somebody goes and looks at that knife again on Amazon.
Chris McDonough joining me, director of Cold Case Foundation, also star of the Interview Room on YouTube. Chris, you first raised the alarm and waved the red flag on the Amazon analytics months and months and months ago. Like, why do they care? What are they looking for? And now we know, Chris, you were right.
Yeah, and what Doc Morgan was talking about, I mean, the intricacy of that particular knife. If you look at it, that knife has what they call a blood groove in it. That knife is designed to kill. It was designed for the military. So when you talk about another fly in the ointment for a moment here, Nancy, let's also remember that somehow that knife sheath ends up a couple thousand miles away underneath one of the victims in this case. So if the family's going to say, hypothetically, if the defense is going to say, yeah, the mom or the dad or whoever the two sisters ordered this knife, well, great. Let's see their DNA. Let's see their DNA on that knife sheath.
Joe Scott?
Yeah, one of my biggest things here, Nancy, is the fact that if you go back and you look at this idea of who ordered the knife, if all of I don't know who's domiciled in this house in Pennsylvania, along with him, his mom and dad. I don't know if the sisters are there. I have no idea, but I do know this: if the occupants of that domicile are compelled to testify in this trial, not only are they going to say, "Well, did you order it on the family account?" They're going to be asked a follow-up question. Well, we know that it was delivered. Did you sign for it? Did you take it off the porch? Did you receive it? And there's going to be a big dead silence in that courtroom, because I don't know, unless somebody were bold enough to try to cover their tracks for this guy or try to lie on his behalf. Not that they would, but aside from that, there's going to be silence in the courtroom, because we know who took delivery of a knife or who collected it off of the porch. No one else is going to be there saying that they saw it.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around, because I've talked to 4 different people.
Hey, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You are hearing a female resident of the home on King Road, and they had called a friend over, and you hear the friend say, "Get out, get out, get out," because he did not want Dylan and or Bethany, the roommates, to come and see Xana's butchered body. Speaking of Dylan Mortensen, we believe that there is a move afoot to have her on the stand for many reasons, but to make a voice, and in court, in front of the jury, voice identification of Bryan Kohberger. Remember, the roommates, one or both of them, heard, "I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you." That was said to the murder victims before they were slaughtered. Now, we know Kohberger may not take the stand. So how can Dylan make a voice identification comparing Kohberger's voice to what she heard that night? Here's a good way.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was
forced
behind
to
you the
turn
whole
left.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
Not
just yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn.
Okay. We all learned from the O.J. Simpson double murder trial, never perform a demonstration in front of the jury that you have not practiced. Remember when Johnny Cochran tried to pull the glove onto O.J. Simpson's hand? It was as big as a Virginia ham. Let me just say that. I think I could have gotten it on his hand. But that said,
Nancy wouldn't have quit till she got that on his hand.
Dylan Mortensen on the stand to make a voice ID of Bryan Kohberger. Has it ever been done to our forensics professor, Joe Scott Morgan?
I'm glad you threw this to me, Nancy, because one of the things I'm thinking about, we rely on eyewitness, ear witness, and I'm thinking, does that fall into the same category? Because one of the problems is, and I can't speak to this because she's a non-forensic scientist. She hasn't worked at Langley, where they can run these tapes, so I think that's going to be a major sticking point. They can say, well, does it sound like the same person? And I can see the defense objecting to this because they'll say she's not qualified to make this assessment. So I think that the chances of her being able to actually make an ID and that be accepted in court, even if it gets that far, are slim and none.
Well, you know what, Joe Scott Morgan, let me remind you. Wait, maybe I'm wrong. Did you go to law school behind my back?
No, I've been
No,
sitting at your
you
feet all
didn't.
these years learning from you.
So Joshua Ritter, she absolutely, I mean, if she can do it, she absolutely will be allowed on the stand to make a voice comparison, right? There's no hoop for her to go to. She won't be testifying as an expert. She will be making a comparison to what she heard that night. Of course, they will practice ahead of time. And if she can't make it, then they won't put her up for that reason. But Josh Ritter, there's nothing to disallow her from making that comparison. My question to you is, I wonder if that's why they did not have him speak in court. Remember, he didn't enter his own plea. He doesn't say anything. The
Yeah,
lawyer
he
entered
doesn't.
the not guilty plea for him. I wonder if that's why they're keeping him quiet, so there won't be any in-court audio of him for her to compare.
That is an interesting point that I had never put together before as to why we've never heard him actually speak in court. But you're right. I mean, as far as asking her to make,
I feel like we had a theory. I feel like we had a theory on why he wasn't speaking, but that wasn't what we were saying, and I can't remember what it was. I'm gonna have to look in my notebook.
the identification, I don't know if the judge legally can prevent them, but if I'm the defense, I am still going blue in the face objecting to this, because think of how this could work out. One, she could say, yeah,
She'll identify his voice. That's how it's going to work out.
And then the jury's going to accept that as an absolute identification of the defendant. And if she doesn't identify it, if she says, well, I can't tell, I only heard these, the prosecution can explain it that this was a word. Yeah, but the prosecution can explain it away.
Ritter, that's what happens when the state puts up damning evidence. The jury believes it. But, you know, another issue, we don't have to have him testify because, isn't it true, Chris McDonough, you've executed plenty of search warrants. While the defendant doesn't have to give a statement or speak to police under the Constitution, right to remain silent, Fifth Amendment, they can be forced to comply to a DNA sample. They can be made to walk and get their gait. They can be compelled to give a writing sample. They can be forced to give a speaking sample.
Yep, absolutely. And then you could give that to an acoustics expert who can measure those, those tremors from the voice. One loophole, though, is the acoustics in the house. I think the defense can argue, hey, the house is gone. We can't do a comparative analysis.
Thank you for tipping him off to that, Chris McDonough. Dr. Bethany Marshall, again, the whole specter of his autism and his OCD has been raised. The judge has said point blank, and I've got him on tape saying he doesn't appear to be impinged in any way. So unless he takes a stand, you're not bringing in autism because he's exhibited no odd behavior in the courtroom at all. Is that real? What would you expect to see from someone that's barely under the spectrum?
Well, first of all, we're all on the spectrum. Everybody is neuroatypical. So the idea that he is special in any real way, I do not buy. The fact that he was a PhD student, he was getting through school, functioning at a very high level, that means that he's competent enough to stand trial. Now, if I were the defense attorneys, I would not be introducing autism for a very specific reason. And that is that people who are very severe in terms of their diagnosis tend to have preoccupations. So if there's a homicidal preoccupation, it would be very difficult for an autistic person to get that out of their mind. They also have preoccupations with physical objects. It could be a train, it could be a book, it could be a knife that's ordered 8 months before a murder, a knife that's reordered again because that autistic person is obsessed with the knife. So I would be very careful with this autistic diagnosis if I were them. It can cut both ways.
We wait as justice unfolds. A trial date set.
Okay. I wanted to look over here. I wanted to look to see what the average IQ score was. Average IQ score, it says, is 90 to 109, and that indicates normal to average intelligence. And then it says the IQ test generally focuses on a person's memory, mathematical skills, reasoning ability, processing speed, language, including vocabulary, visual, spatial processing. I can't even say that. The ability to perceive, analyze, recall, and manipulate images oriented in space and keep track of the location of moving objects. Well, mark me off for that one. It says scientists and psychologists started devising tests to assess intelligence in the late 1800s. In 1905, Alfred Binet, a French psychologist, devised the first intelligence test. Soon after, William Stern, a German psychologist, developed a more accurate method for estimating mental accuracy and coined the term intelligence quotient. Research on IQ continues as more tests are devised to include other skills such as social, emotional, and physical skills and practical intelligence, or what is known as common sense. Well, I will say I don't think our dude has a lot of that. Yeah, I don't think he has a lot of the common sense. Yeah, I want to know what my IQ is too, but I don't want to do y'all on here because y'all make me nervous, and then I'll be looking crazy. You guys would be calling doctor, get me some help. Like, oh, Tanya's hitting up the 30. They wouldn't put me to death though, you know? Okay. So I did go and listen to Daniel's interview with Mr. Goncalves. I clipped about 44 minutes of it. Like here and there are the clips that I hope they sound okay. I'm going to pause it whenever we need to, because like I was clipping it as like, you know, I was hearing stuff. So, but some of it, I think like for a few minutes of it, it did ramble for a second. So we might just have to skip through there. But they talked last night on Drunk Turkey's show, and I have it in my back office. So we're just going to play it like this. This should work. Now, I did put it up to 1.25 the speed when I was recording it. So if it's too fast, we may have to just bring it back down to normal speed. Like we should be able just to bring it back down to normal speed here if we need to. In the beginning, it's on normal speed. Like I put it down to normal speed. So, yeah, we'll start this and then we'll go through another article about, you know, maybe why actually, let's go through this first. We'll do this first. So it says court documents in the murder trial against Bryan Kohberger reveal that one of the two surviving roommates of the University of Idaho murders in 2022 waited hours to call 911 because she thought her slain roommate was asleep. The roommate referenced as DM in the court documents did not alert police to the gruesome scene because she believed her roommate was intoxicated when she saw her lying on the floor of her bedroom, according to court documents filed this week. The documents state at approximately 4 a.m., DM heard strange noises and crying coming from the bathroom. She opened her door at one point and saw a man dressed in black with ski mask on walking by her bedroom door. She then placed calls and texts to her other roommates to see if they were awake. She reached out to the other surviving roommates, surviving roommate listed in the documents as BF, who was the only one to answer. They exchanged multiple texts and being freaked out and questioning who the man in the ski mask was. DM attempted to reach her two roommates without a response and decided to go to BF's. As she made her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor in her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. So she would have been like in a twisted position. If her head, okay, so this door would have been open. Okay, because on the other side of this is Xana's room. So her head would have been, I want to make sure I'm reading this right. She noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. So her feet would have been like towards the door and then head towards this wall, I'm assuming. Hey, Reba. Hey, Plus Gigi. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a visual of what they're saying. Wow. It says DM thought Xana Kernodle was drunk, the documents state. The two surviving roommates stayed in the room and attempted to reach the other roommates again unsuccessfully. DM texts Kaylee Goncalves, please answer. In the early morning hours, DM attempted to contact Goncalves and Madison Mogan without response, which the decision read she thought was strange because they were early wakers. She then asked her friend and her friend's boyfriend to come over because she was afraid. The boyfriend told the women to get out of the house and called 911, the documents say. BF called 911 and spoke with the dispatcher for nearly 5 minutes. She said one roommate was passed out drunk and not waking up, and that they saw a man in their house the night before. Unbeknownst to the surviving roommates at the time, Ethan Chapin, Goncalves, Kernodle, and Mogan were murdered. Kohberger faces 4 murder charges connected to their deaths. Oh, thank you, Southernish, for gifting out memberships again. Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. These are really nice. It says here that additional court documents released this week detail a judge's decision denying Kohberger's defense team's motion to take the death penalty off the table due to his autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. The defense argued that due to the media attention surrounding this case, his diagnosis may make it harder for him to prove his innocence with the death penalty on the table. The judge argued that the concern could be addressed in jury selection. Intellectual impairment, a hallmark of intellectual disability, is not present in the diagnostic criteria of ASD, and no court has ever found the two to be equivalent, the judge wrote. Defendant Kohberger has not presented any evidence of a national consensus as to whether the death penalty is a disappropriate punishment for individuals with ASD. No court has ever found ASD to be categorically death disqualifying diagnosis, the judge additionally wrote. Earlier this month, the judge ruled that one of the surviving roommates can testify about the intruder having bushy eyebrows. Bushy eyebrows are in. ASD, it's out. Unless he gets on the stand. It's crazy, isn't it? Unless you get on the stand, bud. Okay, where are we at? Okay.
I don't know exactly what they were, but there's paperwork that came out that.
Oh, actually, before I play this, it'll slow it back down in a second. But if you guys don't mind just taking a second, hit that like button for me. That'll really help me out. And like I said, I did clip this. So if you want to see the whole episode, let me go grab it while we're listening to this. I'm going to grab the episode for you guys.
Ask people to be prepared to go to court. So take that as a sign that Hitler's tight schedule is something he put together, and it looks like it's gonna happen. I'm kind of reading between the lines a little bit, but I can't say that that's a bad sign. So I'm glad that it's another thing that made this day a pretty good night.
And a lot of folks have struggled with, if this was a guy that was trying to commit the perfect crime, he would have noticed a new vehicle that was Kaylee's. Maybe he didn't know who it was. She had not been there for a while. A lot of people speculate that she'd moved out and there was nothing there anymore. Is that the case when it comes to what she was still living there or not?
She was spending way more time at our house. So depending on who this person was after, he may have chosen the date because that she was there. Because the previous 2 weeks she'd been at our home. And
so here he acts like maybe he doesn't know who who the target was. In fact, and we do have pictures of the back of the house at night where you can see inside Kaylee's room, and you can see there's boxes like stacked up. It looks like she was still had stuff there. She might not have been living there, but she had things there, items there.
And had been taking care of stuff. People that don't know the area, that community, I think, gets around 90,000 when it's full in term between WSU and UI. But when they're out, it drops down to like 20,000 people. So what that means is if you're a local and you're one of these kids being a barista or working on tips, the money's gone. It dries up. So they all get out of town once school's out. So, she was up here, hustling, she can go back to her barista job. I know other kids, my son, Jack, they come up here and they, as long as you don't burn your employer, you give them a call and you can pick up a shift at any drop of a hat. And we don't have the seasonal flows out like they do, so they could come up here and make good money. So I don't think she was there that much. And he had stocked that place out 23 times at least that we know of. We know he'd done more than that. There's some surveillance that shows that some of the days that he was there, he didn't have his phone on. You know, the people got hung up, and even myself, over the stalking. The stalking in Idaho is defined as a certain profile. He was definitely stalking, surveilling, whatever whatever definition you want. That he didn't have reasons to be in that location within 100 yards, and I can guarantee you they've checked his bank records and seen if he was actually shopping. Like like some people are just naive and stupid. They want to be stupid. You know, they want to believe myths and fairy tales and be lied to. I don't have any time for those type of people. So yeah, we nailed down all these type of things. You know, when we talk with the prosecution, we're just like, let's make sure that we've checked bank records. Let's make sure that we can define everything that this individual is doing when he was making these trips. And you know, when you're talking about 23 trips, can a person make a perfect backstory every single time they drive in out there? Sure, some days you can go to Winco and pick up a 6-pack and some potato chips or milk or whatever, but it takes true discipline to do it every single time. And I know mistakes were made, and people think, you know, he was smart and he, you know.
I wonder what he meant by that. Like, mistakes were made. I wonder what mistakes were made. Was he going to Moscow, let's say, to the Mad Greek? I'm just saying that for an example. Let's say he went there every Thursday to the Mad Greek. Like, he was showing like a, you know, that he does this, that's something that he does all the time. What if on that like 4th Thursday going in, he wasn't hungry, so he didn't go to the Mad Greek? And just that little like switch up in the routine is going to be like something that they use against him, because maybe he's going to say like he was going over to Moscow for a different reason than what he was actually over there for. I mean, in my opinion, I would just be like, I was driving around. I mean, that's what you're saying anyway, right?
It doesn't matter. The days of making a perfect crime, they're over. You can't do it.
There's 23 times that he was around that place. You know, in the documents, it verifies or clarifies that on these occasions, these 23 times, that he was within 100 meters, and it was between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. Not when majority of your shopping is done, and there's not a store within 100 meters of the victim's residence. You know, you also mentioned that maybe perhaps he was out there with his phone off. The documents only bring up to November 17th. You know, I don't know if you know or not, but you know, I think that if Kaylee was maybe perhaps the subject of you know, the target there, maybe there'd be some sort of correspondence there with the times that he was in the area with his phone off, and the nights that he went with his phone off was also the times that Kaylee may have been in town. You know, if those days correspond together, then that might be something that really points in that direction. Back early on, you'd mentioned that injuries didn't match. A lot of people have speculated what you meant by that, including myself. I still don't know the answer. Would you mind explaining what you meant by that?
I'm careful with it because throughout this whole investigation, there was things that we found out on our own, and there was things that they shared with us, and that was one of the things that we kind of found out on our own. So I did share a little bit, and usually when I do share things, it's things that I didn't give my word that I wouldn't share it. It's hard to describe. I don't want to go too far down, but like how I said, we talked to Mabbit, and she basically said that they were in the bed together. They had passed away, but she's seen markings and damages that made her suspect that that there was more to what had happened to them in that bedroom. So, I mean, I'll say he struck my daughter. You know, I'll give that out. He punched her, and you know, so for all those people who think he's a great guy, now he punched my daughter right in the face. So,
okay, I'm gonna stop it right here, and I'm gonna say this: Jennifer Coffenduffer, go to listen to this interview again, because Steve Goncalves did not say that Bryan Kohberger was stabbing his daughter with his right hand and punching her with his left. I saw that on Twitter earlier before the live, and I was like, no, he didn't say that, but I wanted to confirm it again, but for a third time. I don't know, that woman is nuts. He does not say that. So if you see that on X, it's not true. If you see it in another chat, it's not true. He didn't say that. I'll play it back. We'll play it back again.
I do share things. It's things that I didn't give my word that I wouldn't share it. It's hard to describe. I don't want I don't want to go too far down, but like how I said, we talked to Mabbit, and she basically said that they were in the bed together. They had passed away, but she's seen markings and damages, so that made her suspect that that there was more to what had happened to them in that bedroom. So, I mean, I'll say he struck my daughter. You know, I'll give that out. He punched her, and you know, so for all those people who think he's a great guy, now he punched my daughter right in the face. So yeah, he's got some.
And you know he was on pure adrenaline right then. I can only imagine what that would do to her. You know, like it would stun her and everything.
Coming to him, you know, we're coming for him. That's one thing that was a little bit different. There's more to it, but I'm gonna have to sit down with make sure that I don't say something that, you know, is gonna play into the case and tie anybody's hands.
Understood. Yeah, we definitely don't want to, you know, I don't mean any disrespect. They have some blood on a handrail, and I know they have some other persons that they might look at. Maybe perhaps an incident that may or may not have occurred at Signakai. I don't know if it did or didn't. Have you heard anything about that situation, or is that just all rumored?
It's all rumored BS. I mean, he was with his sister, man. These kids are so good. I mean, he was doing his little date for his sister. I mean, wow. And you see so many brothers and sisters fight and you can't stand each other. And these guys were, she was inviting him over for like a dance to be around her brother. So it just goes to show how close these kids were. But yeah, I haven't heard no real, any truth to any of that.
Another person that I think that the defense might look at it is Jack. And a lot of reason might be just because he was with the girls that night at the corner club. He was the person that was getting phone calls. A lot of people still suspect that those phone calls may have been somebody else, without going into any details, because that's their business. But did you hear any voicemails, or was it just text messages? Was there like proof of life at the time when those voicemails or calls were made?
The phone stuff was investigated by Christy and Olivia, so I wasn't around when they actually got into those things. I seen some of the screen captures.
Investigated.
But I'm trying to help people understand how we know for a fact that Jack's not involved. There is the whole cast went into that neighborhood, and people are going to understand that cast detail is though we didn't get some of the timing records, there's still a lot of information there that they did get, and Jack is one of the people where they did get the timing records, which lets you go within feet. Mm-hmm. So they knew when Jack's phone was moving when he was in his bed sleeping and moving around, whether that was under his pillow or it was on his blankets or whatever moving around. So they have a absolute certainty where Jack was that night, and there's surveillance that was going on around there that lets them know. I mean, of course, he could sneak up in the attic and go through the crawl space. You could always, you could do these YouTube crazy scenarios where he got out of the house without triggering any of the surveillance that they had. But realistically, they know exactly where he was. Now, is he going to be an alternative suspect? Well, hopefully they don't put him through that. But if he does, he'll be coming into that courtroom with us right by his side, and he'll probably be staying over at our house at our Airbnb. So,
house being called the Andrew Garrett discovery. Are you familiar with it?
I sure am. Yeah.
And it sure does seem like you guys were on the same page as far as the possibility of a social media account potentially belonging to Bryan Kohberger following some of the victims of your daughter and Maddie and Xana. Do you still feel that way, that that's the right profile and that there was some sort of following, at least on the internet, of some sort?
Yeah. It was kind of confusing at the very beginning, and I'm sure it was confusing for the investigators, because I went in there one day with my family, and we were like, what happened to the LinkedIn? Why were you guys into our account? Why did you remove it? And they looked at us like we were from another planet. Eyes bulged, and we could tell they were being completely honest. They were like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Well, we later on figured out and investigated and found out that it was the FBI. So there was two parallel investigations going on at the same time. And so I think, and I've been told that the FBI wanted clear lines. Like, you guys are going to be working on this stream of information. We're going to be working on this stream of information. And Stalking was one of them. When I had to sit down meetings with those FBI agents, they talked about how it was a 20-year term that they could possibly get if, because I was worried that I thought at one particular time, maybe I could have the charges dropped on Kaylee and picked up at the federal level. And then there would be a fail-safe in case something happened at the state level, if any mistakes were made, if anything got thrown out. We were just trying to be that careful. And they basically let me know that they had an investigation that they could still pick up. even if something got messed up, this person was not going to walk free if somebody came out and, heaven forbid, got caught lying, or the Brady, or whatever the different things that can throw evidence out. There was still another investigation that they felt very confident in. That I remember one of the agents saying, "We're the FBI. Do you think that a mass murder of 4 would be released on a technicality?" I was like, "I don't know." And they're like, "No, we've sealed, we've looked, we have evidence. This individual will never be free again. 100%. We have the right guy. There's no doubt in our minds, and we can have him at the state level. We can have him at the federal level." So
there's also a video from another place.
I mean, Steve seems pretty confident, Seems pretty confident that they got the evidence that they need.
In the lane that captures also some.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is going to be important. This is going to be about the Linda Lane footage and all of the background noises that people were hearing and dogs and stuff like that. They go over this.
Doubt in our minds, and we can have him at the state level.
I wish I could have asked a couple questions, because I had a couple questions, follow-up questions, but I'm going to have to put them in the comment. I have to write them all down. I have some follow-up questions. Maybe he can ask them
at the federal level. So
there's also a video from another place on Linda Lane that captures also some traveling around. Early on, there was a lot of speculation. Some people still point at this, that they can hear things throughout earlier portions of the night. I'm not sure if you have or not, but if you've heard any of the audio that may be closer to the victims' homes, do you hear any of those such things? Or do you think there may be some sort of play with the audio on some of those footages?
I know the backstory where that Linda Lane came from, and it was a money grab. It was literally, I know the exact person that went and purchased this thing, and
money grab.
Yeah, so they tried to get me to release it or discuss it or bring it up in one of the interviews that I was doing, and get me to echo some of the things that were on it. So I had some people look at it themselves, and they were like, it's either been the audio has been manipulated, or it's so poor quality that they didn't have any confidence in it. And some of the things that are the times don't match up to the times that I know my daughter was moving and doing and sending texts and all these different things. So, and plus we had the 1112, I think that is the other surveillance that basically we could hear a lot clearer during the exact same times. So anyone who thinks that they're breaking the case over these cameras and whatever they're hearing, it's kind of naive. It's naive to think that you heard something and everybody's going to throw this investigation off and not overlook something that you found is so amazing. This true crime stuff is it's an eye opener. It sucks to have your daughter's murder be like some form of somebody's like entertainment. And they like to go out there and stir up their followers and make narratives that are more like for novels than real life.
Do you remember Joseph Morris, the guy? He had over, was it 200,000 subscribers? He had a huge following. He took the Banfield audio and inserted a domestic violence situation and said that it was Kaylee screaming. That was in the beginning of this case. That happened in the beginning. And he got busted out for it. Like, that's terrible.
So it's
because as a parent, you would listen to that and you would think for a minute, was it? And you would listen to it.
Terrible. And
it's just sad.
I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever cross one of these people.
Yeah.
I've thought to myself, do I just go to jail? And, do I just, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard,
Yeah.
And that's not most of them. There's only a few that are like that. I mean, most people are trying to be honest and like you are and you have been. And it does, and I don't even expect you to always be right. We haven't been right every time either. So I just expect people to be honorable and don't purposefully spin a narrative that in the back of your mind is false. And you just hope that your users never, cross the same information that you found. You go suppress certain things to keep your narrative alive longer. I'm almost positive that there's people doing that because I've seen other people make comments that said, hey, this happened at this time. This doesn't follow your scenario. And then they just strike that, that thing's been deleted. They delete it after a certain amount of time. So it tells me that this person isn't after the truth. They're just after, rallying up their followers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I've seen that. I've seen that in a few different cases where, in different ones too, where this mob just kind of gets out of control, which is one of the things that I really try to go up against here on this channel, is to put out there what's correct and accurate versus, and to combat those that are trying to manipulate what is put out there. There's been literally a situation where there was a scenario with the DNA in this case where they were talking about how it doubled up. And the way it was explained to me was as if you had like an audio where you wanted to play an MP4 and an MP3, you had to change it. And so now you have the MP3 and the MP4, but they're both the same thing. And yet on these Kohberger channels, they just hear that it doubled it and they hit the pause button. They don't go into the explanation of why it is. And they leave a huge piece of context out. And that's what we tried to add on here, is that context, to make sure that everybody understands exactly what's going on. You brought up something interesting. You brought up the 1112 King Road video. Without going into too many details, because I don't want to violate any gag order, but
I think that the cops released a photo. There's just been so much going on. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's all though. That's just the one photo of the car. And you can see like the pumpkins on the front porch.
Have the opportunity to maybe view it or not. Is there
I'll look around
distinct time difference between the DoorDasher? Do you see a DoorDash vehicle? And is that vehicle different than the white vehicle that is suspected to be Bryan Kohberger's?
What I see, yes, it's a different vehicle. The times line up with what the courts have specified. I often wonder if that vehicle crosses paths with the white Elantra. It looks to line up to where they possibly do, and that'd just make the case even that much stronger. Especially now, I don't the age of that car. I don't know if it would have a camera, and I don't know what. I've never done Uber Eats or any of those type of things, so I don't know what their rules are if you have to have some way of tracking your vehicle. But yeah, there things. There's certain cameras that are a lot better at detailing what's going on, and they've triangulated all of the cameras together, so they're not relying on just one. And the timing that they do between when it hits one and then goes to another, then they can tell you the speed that it was doing. So that white car was all over that crime scene, and the person had their phone off, which we knew very early on with those FBI saying that we're almost looking more for someone who turned their phone off during these times. That was more of a red flag to them than having a phone on. Now, most of the phones, of course, they're going to go through all those people in that area and look for out of area numbers. So if those girls, their numbers weren't as interesting as if somebody that was from, let's say, Montana went through there, that had not shown up ever on all the previous dumps that they weren't just dumping that day. They were putting together all the things. So they were looking for outsiders, and they were also looking for somebody who had turned their phone off. Because what do college students never do? They never turn their phones off. Right. They never turn them off. I mean, they put them on a charger next to their bed. Why would your phone go off? And I used to have the exact term on this, but some of the people that I've spoken with, Shadow Dragon, there's a hard close. Don't quote me if that's the exact word it is. I'd have to go look at my records. But there's a way that they can identify when a phone's been turned off and how it's been turned off. And they can even tell you if the battery life, what it is. So when this moron turned off his phone, hard turned it off with 90-some plus battery life, and he's sitting in his car driving around. People, you're fools if you think that this is just all coincidence. Here's another coincidence that they're going to be checking on. So how many stargazing apps do you got on that phone? How many you got on there, Bo? Because I don't think you got any. And believe it or not, those are actually pretty popular apps. I was shocked. So the amount of detail that these
thank you, Southernish
investigators have done, it's impressive. I mean, these are great, hardworking men. They shouldn't be attacked. Some guy, they think that there has to be this curvature, some special ending. But this is real live people, and they got the right person. And there was a time where I was trying to be very open about who it was, but they laid it out in a way that still hasn't came out. There's stuff that is going to literally blow people's mind. Like this jury is going to be like the first one, an hour and a half, and go get him, indict him. He's done. Okay. So yeah, people who think that these guys are going to be like sitting for hours stressing out on what argument Ann had. Ann is so desperate right now. It's a joke. She's so desperate that she's using the work that me and my family put together to get all those clues. We did those interviews, so all these people would call, and if you see something, say something, and that led to a massive amount of tips. And she's going through all that stuff, trying to find out somebody that can fit the profile of somebody she can say is an alternative suspect. But thank God Idaho has rules. So
I like that he said that. He was like, now she has to go through, like, she's literally going through all the stuff that they collected. And, they did collect a lot in the beginning. And I know a lot of people have their feelings about that. He could have he could have done something to mess up the investigation. And that could have happened. But at the same time, they were able to do things that the officers weren't able to do. And, they have to cut through the yellow tape or whatever it's called, like they have to get like warrants and all that. Mr. Goncalves can just go up to somebody and say, hey, can I have your camera footage? Like from this date to this date. And, my daughter was, killed right down the road. I'm sure whoever that person is would give it to them,
Otherwise we'd probably be 4 weeks of her just rambling off.
So for people to go and try to sell him the Linda Lane footage and to have him put that out first, because that's how this all played out, it's dirty. It's real dirty to do that to someone.
Nonsense, and just trying to overwhelm the jury with just waste of time. And I still suspect that, but we won't be playing a part of that. And we're a different kind of family. She can say something in court, and then I'll get out of that courtroom and I'll rebut it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not here to help her have an easier case. Once that jury's secured in that room, there's nothing I can say on the camera that could ever reach to them. At that point, I'm letting it all out. Everything's coming out, and it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because there's no holds bars at that point. We can once that jury's been selected, picked, and put into a chamber where they're not going to be watching the media. Then they're so concerned. They're just making up stories like we wore. I never wore anything. None of the G's ever wore any of that. That's why we went back and said, go find it. Find some proof. And of course they backed off of that because they went and checked the cameras. There was no. Yeah. But when I leave that courtroom, I'll put on anything I want, and my family will put on anything they want, and they're not going to control that. So, like I said, we're going to be a family that makes this individual look back and think, if there was one big mistake I made was going after a G, because those guys didn't stop. They just kept coming. They kept coming. And how much easier would have my life been if I didn't have to turn on the TV and only see that guy, pointing out what I did.
100%. As an IT guy, apparently he puts his phone in a VPN when he turns it on at 4:48. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? What is a VPN, for those that don't know, and what is somebody trying to accomplish with that?
VPN protects.
I love this because I've been saying for a long time, only because my good buddy Vincent is in IT, but VPNs don't really do much for you, especially in the way of a cell phone. It's just supposed to hide your IP address if you're at like a Starbucks or something. It's an open Wi-Fi. It just helps so that people can connect to your Wi-Fi. I think that's how he explained it to me. It's been a couple years since he explained it to me.
Some of your identifiers, and normally on a PC, it's just mainly your IP. They're not nearly what people think they are. So what you could do is, so you're really tough. It's really hard to do this with a cell phone, because a cell phone. Here's the problem with the cell phone is the towers won't communicate with you until you prove that you have a contract to use their services. So what that means is when your phone comes up, goes through a boot order, and it goes out and says, hey, this is my unique identifiers. I'm this person. I'm on AT&T. I'm on Sprint, whatever it is. I got a vile contract, and this it's a certificate on that device says, I want to use your tower, and it works. And then you put on a VPN, but that's already told the tower that you're there. Whereas a computer, you can have a VPN start before your internet starts. And then you can go out your internet and totally remain hidden. And so you look like you look like your ISP's number at that point, and you don't look like the house address. You're being able to hide your house address and look like the internet provider's address, but you can't do that on a cell phone. So this guy wasn't that smart. I mean, especially when it comes to IT. If he thought he could come out here and teach us, which we're all like ex-Californians, and people worked at like San Francisco and San Diego. I work with some brilliant individuals, MIT, all over. He was a moron. What he could have did, which we were trying to rule out, is if he had another phone and he tethered this one. So if he would have shared his Wi-Fi here and put VPN on there and then took this phone and then tethered it to that phone, he would have made it very, very difficult for them to track down. And then on this phone that doesn't have a cellular provider, doesn't have any contracts, took pictures, did all this stuff on that. We had to rule that out.
Yeah.
And that was a scary moment to think that, we could have had somebody that was truly a cloud forensic smart individual. This guy was just a stupid kid that, thought he could have his moment out here with what I think you were talking about, like these rural police officers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like these guys don't know what's coming. I'm this new East Coast kid that understands all this stuff, and I'm gonna show them how to use all this stuff. Yeah. The computer stuff is gonna do him in just as much as that DNA is.
Yeah, I agree. You had mentioned once that his phone may have touched the Wi-Fi. Is that accurate, or was that something that maybe? What did you mean by that? Because I haven't seen that in any document, and I'm curious about that.
Well, I was reading a certain document where it was talking about, I believe it was IEME ID, and those are associated with MAC tables. And I do know some stuff that's not public, and they were trying to get a hold of some of the records on the router. I may have just misread what I said, because it would have came out by now. The same people who make these lies up, and I'm like, well, where's your warrants? If some other person's involved, where are these warrants at? There's some guy out there that they hear on that Linda Lane. Probably shouldn't say his name just because he's probably sitting in jail wondering why.
When he's talking about like creators and doing thinky hinky stuff, I think he was talking about her. Do you remember the beginning of this case? It was Drunk Turkey Show and True Crime, or not true, sorry. Not True Crime and other stuff. She's in the chat right now. And Truth and Transparency. So sorry about that. You guys are totally two different people. Totally two different people. And they were like Team Kohberger. They were doing that crap. They were doing that like I'm not saying crap. I'm not going to say that per se. Yes, I am. They were floating that option. They were, they were not wanting to say one way or another, because they didn't want, I think that the views would have went down. If you are more in with the camp of, you didn't believe anything that the cops put out, like, you had a lot more people in your chats. I don't know how to explain it, but do you remember this? Does anyone else remember this way back in the beginning of this case? And has anyone heard Daniel? I heard he was a cop before. This was years ago, and I haven't heard it brought up ever since. So let me know if you've heard that. Yeah, was supposed to be a police officer. Yeah. So I haven't heard that though in years. I haven't watched him in years. So I wonder if that was true. I know that there is something. He did have something wrong with his eyes though, because I always asked why he wore glasses, and someone told me. They told me what was up, and then I felt bad because because I was like, well, I want to wear sunglasses too.
People are even talking about him. I think far.
And I think the reason why I brought it up is because Lana used to go on their chats. It would be a panel, and she'd always have sunglasses on too. So it was like a thing. Like, why is everyone wearing sunglasses?
Or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, come on, give me a break, guys. Give me a break.
Yeah.
It doesn't match up.
Daniel seems like a real good guy, though. He does.
It sure is. It sure is.
I wonder what he did.
Overall, I think I strongly suspect they got the right guy. I mean, at this point, their only argument is that the DNA is.
I'm just so curious. I just want to know everything. I'm just a curious person, But I want to know what he did when he was a cop. Like, was he like security? Did he get hurt on the job? Like, I'm nosy. I don't need to know that. But I hope not. Because he just seems so young, to not be like working stuff. Like, I hope he's okay.
I don't even think they're arguing the DNA is his. One of these recent documents, they reference how much DNA was found, and when I Google searched it, it's a large amount of DNA that was found on that night sheet, on the knife sheet. I think it's going to do him in. I don't think he has very many arguments left. I know right now he's throwing out autism and a bunch of other things. Some folks are thinking maybe he's trying to come up with something to push a plea deal. Have you heard of any type of plea deal? And do you think they would ask you first if they were going to go down that road?
By law, they have to. Idaho law, not federal law. We're building. Old Thompson, he was like a Santa Claus. I think Thompson's skin's gotten tougher, and I think he's gotten a little bit more fighter spirit. And I think seeing us battle with the, going through all the things that we've gone out with. There's stuff that people don't know. People like vandalizing, people showing up at our house, people posting pictures of our address, all this stuff. And I think he thought, if they're going to go through this, then I'm gonna do the will of the victims. And but I don't know if his heart was always in it. 100%. It's hard. Nobody really wants to murder, and go through a murder case and have to end somebody else's life. None of us want to do this, and we were forced to do this. We were forced into this behavior. We didn't want nothing to do with this loser. I mean, this guy was literally 27 years old, living with his parents. He's a complete loser. It's absolutely frustrating that my daughter got murdered by a complete loser. She's graduating a year early, on the dean's list. Nobody else was graduating a year early in that around her. She was a rock star, and this loser ends up sneaking in and killing her. So the least he can do is pay the ultimate price. Down 23 hours, and you get 1 hour out. So you can't go and enroll in colleges. You can't pursue higher education. You can't go and have dreams of, motivating other people to do what you did. This individual's sick. He studied crime. He studied the BTK killer. His professor was literally orchestrated a private session with him where she got private interviews so she could make a book, an exclusive book, and then she split the profits with him.
Did y'all hear that? Who's he talking about? He for surely isn't talking about Miss Ramslin, is he? How would she be able to devote time to Brian? I'm confused by that statement. Because she's in Pennsylvania. As far as we know, we don't know where she's at. She could be visiting him, but I don't know. Let's go back and listen to it one more time. Because he says a professor
is pay the ultimate price. Down 23 hours, and you get 1 hour out. So you can't go and enroll in colleges. You can't pursue higher education. You can't go and have dreams of, motivating other people to do what you did. This individual's sick. He studied crime. He studied the BTK killer. His professor was literally orchestrated a private session with him where she got private interviews so she could make a book, an exclusive book, and then she split the profits with him.
Is he talking about BTK? Because I know that I think she wrote a book with BTK. Remember, she wrote a book on BTK. I think so.
Him, so then he could use that money to flex in prison and buy cigarettes and buy power and buy influence in there. And we're not going to let that happen. That ain't going to happen in Idaho, and that's not going to happen to him. But that means we got to work with legislators. And
Okay, I got it.
Like-minded
I only had to hear it 3 times.
People that truly.
That's who he was talking about when Ramslin wrote the book on BTK.
Care about the community and put out the message that.
How did you get the money for that?
This person picked the wrong state to do this in, and we've done everything to make sure that we don't attract this type of behavior ever again. We got all. Whose
law was that went into place? It was like Elizabeth Smart or someone. No, I can't remember who it was exactly, but it was like a huge case, and they made it to where if you're convicted of a murder, you cannot do any like press or book deals or anything like that and get any monetary gain off of it. I forget who. I want to think it was like a little girl they named it after.
All this media, we could do it. And those are the type. That's probably part of the reason why they share certain things with us. Is they're like, this guy, we don't want him to go on there and say something like that because it's not relevant. Because this person literally had a Dickies outfit on, was covered head to toe, had a mask with his eyes. You couldn't even scratch the guy. You couldn't even scratch. It's like a paper he wrote. It's like the guy wrote about his own crime. I mean, these people. It just blows my mind. He writes about his own. He interviews individuals and investigates them to figure out how he can incorporate that into his crime. We had people write us letters that were like, I was one of the people that was interviewed, and he was obsessed with how I was picking my victims. He was picking victims. This guy said, I told him I picked my victims after they called 911 or their neighbors called 911 on them for a noise complaint, and the husband or the boyfriend was hauled off to jail. Then he would go and he goes, there's certain neighborhoods where they had money. Then I would go in there because I knew the mail wasn't there. And he said, and Brian called him back repeatedly. And he said, I got a sense that he was really enjoying my stories and how I was telling passed out women, butt naked. And he went into those and was just like, he really liked my story. He liked that. And then I started wondering, well, who was calling 911 on these kids? Especially in the daytime, in the middle of the day. They're next to a stadium, a football stadium. How do you get a noise complaint in a college town in the daytime?
Kinda makes sense. I wonder, yeah, I was wondering, okay, so, I mean, that's a valid point. That's a valid point because I was in college once, and I know that I've been to many, 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 not that many, but many, many enough college parties to know that we had the music. I mean, like subwoofers and everything blaring out of these houses, and we never got not one, never got a noise complaint. Never got them. So I do wonder kind of now why they were getting noise complaints in the middle of the day. I mean, the music was loud in one of them. There are homes around there that look like maybe they are like family homes, not just university housing, but maybe that's who was calling.
You know, maybe you're just trying to figure out how long it takes them to show up. I don't know.
Or what kind of response happens
Yeah, the
afterwards?
daytime it is weird.
You know, like if who leaves, who stays, you know, do they come back? You know, if you were to call 911 while there's a party, does everybody not come back? You know, is that what you need to do?
And if you get a warning that if we come back here, we're going to find you. Somebody's going to jail.
Yeah.
Might be a time where you want to sneak in or do a little surveillance around that house, because that might be the time where you want to go in there, because the last thing they want to do is pick up and call 911.
You know, it was awfully quiet that night. And I think that a lot of that had to do with, one, there was other parties in other places in town, but two, there was also I guess, minors in possession of alcohol and, you know, deterrent going on. You know, there was the stop there by the van field by undercover officers in the area trying to stop underage drinking and loud noises. You know, I often wondered if Kohberger was aware of that going on that night, and if maybe that's why that led to one of the reasons why, because he knew that there would be some sort of enforcement out that night that would prevent loud parties or a party in that neighborhood.
Yeah, we have somebody who was working in a department that was in charge of all those programs.
Interesting.
So yeah, so yeah, I think where your mind's going is a logical conclusion of what the behavior footprint that this person's done. And believe me, they've analyzed this footprint. I mean, somebody who goes through the exercise of doing a survey in Reddit, and if you go look at the times, the guy had already graduated.
Yeah,
and it wasn't used in his graduation, his whatever, his final.
Thesis.
Yeah, his thesis, his final. So yeah, I'd be shocked if this individual didn't know.
It was used though in his, I think in his final. Wasn't the survey? I know he had a couple different theses and finals, but
Well, that meant that he didn't get the job in the spring.
I'm pretty sure it was part of his DeSales graduate crap, because he did everything online for DeSales. That's why a lot of people don't know either. They're like, yeah, he went to DeSales, he went to school there. No, he was taking online classes.
Given his background being a former
I think that they might have had like one group project, and I don't really know how that works because I did online classes and I didn't do any group project with anybody. Like it was all online.
He was addicted to heroin, and perhaps some of the things that may have happened to him at other schools, or even his job as a security officer, may have prevented him from passing a background check. You know, and you know, I was concerned that he may never became. Well, not concerned. I was glad that he probably wasn't ever going to be a police officer. But yeah, that's interesting.
I think he had visions of himself being that. Whether they would have, maybe he doesn't slip through the cracks. I understood that he slipped through some cracks already because of COVID.
Lori?
Yeah.
Some of the background checks were.
You think that's why Lori's doing freaking interviews and shit? Because we didn't hear nothing from Lori Vallow for a long time. Where are they housing her at first? Where are they taking her to? Are they taking her to Idaho to serve her time first, then Arizona? Which she'll never make it there, but.
Not done because of the COVID stuff going on. I have no proof that that's true or not. It's just insiders that told me what was going on during that time. Certain labs were closed because of COVID. Campuses were not all open. I know that for a fact. So I would like to think that they would have caught him.
Yeah, I think the professor that recommended him to the PhD program said that he had actually never met, or she'd never met Bryan Kohberger in person. Everything was online.
Maybe he was just taking classes.
Yeah, that was the person that actually recommended him.
Is that right?
I'm going to double check. I know he was taking classes online through DeSales. I don't know if it's because it was like during COVID or what. I'm double checking.
Ramsey?
No, it was a different Bolger. I think it was her last name.
I don't know anything about that individual. That's interesting.
Yeah,
she's the one that she only gave like 2 recommendations in her whole career, and she was super young. She was like Brian's age, and she gave him one.
The one who recommended him to the PhD program, She said that he was one of two he was one of two students to recommend that she's ever recommended, and that he was very bright and brilliant, etc. But that she never met him in person. That it was during online courses due to COVID and everything else that was going on during that time.
Well, that makes a lot more sense because he creeped out every girl that actually got around him. I just got a call yesterday from a girl that I was asking permission to use her name to investigate one of the reports that she put in after
online
this all went
classes.
down. She said she hadn't heard much afterwards. So yeah, there's a lot of women that's why they're like trying to make this whole ASD. I heard that came from his mama who went and dug through his old records because these medical records aren't back in the 90s and the early 2000s. They weren't. There was no EMS, electronic medical record system back then that is still actively. Now you got cancer or something like that. Your records are probably going to still be out there. But if you got a broken finger or something in 2001, don't be surprised if you go to a doctor visit and they can't pull that record up. But I understood that somebody went and found some of his old records and tried to convince the defense that they could use those to make an excuse for his odd behavior, because there's going to be student after student after student that are going to just talk about how they had a running tally on this guy and all the weirdness that he was doing and the inappropriate behavior that this guy had. I mean, he'd barely been there and he was getting kicked out in a university where that is super rare, guys. You don't just go into universities and see people getting fired. It's almost
something that could throw off investigators that was left by the killer. And another thing is to check the doors for DNA as the person was leaving. Maybe perhaps they may have left DNA behind on the door. And we find out that the back sliding glass door was left open the entire time. Now, I strongly suspect that being the case because, well, if he's opening the door, he's touching it once, he's closing it again, and he's touching it twice, and then opening it to get out. There's at least 3 different times that he's touching it. One time after he's already exerted himself, which would probably mean that he's sweating and things of that nature. That would be a high possibility for him to leave DNA behind. Well, he points that out in his 2020 writing. Sliding glass door is open. I see a huge connection there. Are you connecting the same dots as I am?
Yeah, very much so.
The front door was left open though too. And I want to really know about that front door now, because there's no reason for that front door to be open at 8:30 in the morning. No reason at all. Not one reason.
And I know that there's some people looking at this exact same way.
The
So much so to, like, I've heard a scenario where Xana goes in. Let's say she goes in, she gets her meal prepared. The DoorDash meal, goes to the bathroom, goes to her room, something, goes back into the kitchen and says, "Oh, there's somebody here." How does she know that? Because that slider's been left wide open, and there's a kill kit, something there, some kind of package, some kind of thing that raises a flag that somebody just came into my house. And maybe you're hearing noises upstairs. And yeah.
And this is just him speculating.
So I've seen a couple different scenarios that have
from what I know
been discussed. I don't have anything concrete. I can't go there, but I think that
well, the dog barking at the exact same time that you can hear whimpering and a thud says that the glass door had to have been open. It sounds like when Dylan woke up and she heard who she thought was Kaylee, probably because of the dog going up at the same time. It was actually Xana coming downstairs. Well, Murphy would have been running with her, and it sounds like she went to Ethan and Murphy went outside. And
why would Murphy go outside? He was found in Kaylee's room. So I don't get that part either. I'll rewind it so you guys can hear it. But I don't think so. Because he was locked in Kaylee's room. So who locked him in Kaylee's room?
Barking at the exact same time that you can hear whimpering and a thud says
that's actually from the PCA. The cops said that's where they found the dog.
That the glass door had to have been open. It sounds like when Dylan woke up and she heard who she thought was Kaylee, probably because of the dog going up at the same time. It was actually Xana coming downstairs. Well, Murphy would have been running with her, and it sounds like she went to Ethan and Murphy went outside. And I think when she hears somebody say, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," is that confrontation in the hallway between maybe Xana turns around to see what's going on, and there he is. And, he says that in order to surprise her, I guess.
Yeah, one of the death penalty qualifiers is that actually I'm here to help you, when that individual could have just left. They didn't have to kill him. So, so people who talk all this madness about DM, she's she's been huge to the case, actually massive to the case. And you're going to find out that the late 911 call is actually going to be probably the final call, the final nail in his coffin. So there's even benefits to even the most tragic parts. I mean, the late call, if it leads to different evidence, then it's a good thing. And I say that knowing that my daughter wasn't going to survive what she was stabbed so many different times. So, and I can clarify a little bit of that too.
Are you referring to him going back out there? Like, had she called 911 early, then he wouldn't have gone back at 9 o'clock, right?
I'm referring to a couple different things, but the coroner made it clear that at least 2 of the victims, it's hard for me to talk about, but they basically drowned on their stab wounds. So the blood wasn't like all over.
So it sounds like he punctured them in their lungs.
The place, or it would explain why the blood was contained. So if you have a blanket over you and you're doing a lot of internal bleeding, your body will hold a portion of that. So like I said, everything that these people are trying to spin into some crazy conspiracy actually has a scientific background of why it is the way it is. And it's not Hollywood. It's not officers or a vacuum cleaner that went in there.
Okay, so it looks like I found it. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Goncalves. Here after Goncalves' room, I later learned from review of Officer Noon's body camera, there was a dog in the room when Moscow police officers initially responded. The dog belonged to Goncalves and her ex-boyfriend, Jack Decor. So yeah, I would say that the dog was in the bedroom door was closed with the dog locked in.
Vacuumed up stuff or whatever these crazy people want to say. That I think the vacuum cleaner is just the K-bar with
and that's why there was no biologicals on the dog.
One of the shirts that he grabbed and wrapped it around it. So you have a K-bar in your hand and you wrap a shirt around it. What does it do? It goes big and then goes down.
Yeah. And
I think he just seen the amount of blood. He wasn't sure if it was his. Yeah, he's bled everywhere, so he just wrapped it up and built it out of the house with trying to mitigate the trail as much as he possibly could, because he was going to that door where he had the rest of his kit.
Do you think?
So we heard that the misbehaving. We heard in the beginning of the case, in the beginning, that the backslider door, we heard that it was open. I don't ever remember seeing it with my own eyes, like where I read it. Do you know what I mean? But I do have the articles where they say, I have 2 articles saying that the front door was open at 8:30 the next morning. So that was from a neighbor. So maybe both doors were open. I just don't understand why Dylan wouldn't shut that door as she's going to Bethany's room. If that door was open from that night before, she would have walked right beside it. She could have just slammed it right on her way, right by it. But that's what I don't understand.
Do you think that we're going to find out in this trial what the prosecution believes he did with that knife?
I know some of the background of where they looked and what they were trying to find. And honestly, I
wonder if he entered through one door and exited through another. Just left them open.
I think I just go to the simplest. Why has he got a shovel in the back of his car?
Sure. And
it's not these idiots, because there's a Kohberger out there right now thinking to themselves that they're smart. No, you're stupid. You're an idiot. It was a mini one. It wasn't very big. You don't use it for snow. So anybody who thinks he was using that for snow, you're just a moron. You don't live out here. Nobody uses a shovel like that. You use a shovel like that for dirt, and it has a super tip. So yeah.
So where did he bury it? I wonder.
Driving around with a shovel
tells
me that he probably had something to do with that, because then that gives him the ability to go back and get it.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed all these. This was a fantasy for him. He planned it for a long time, and he should put you as soon as you got off the campus from the football game, you were right there, so you could go drink and not be harassed. And, if you wonder why 911 wasn't called, use your brain, guys. I mean, maybe you didn't go to college. You don't need to go to college to understand that. You want to get off campus and you want to have a beer with your friends, and if you got somebody who's 21 and somebody who's not 21, you better talk to the person who's 21 before you call 911.
When he said that, I was like, absolutely. That's what we would have done at that age too. If we were 20 or 19, we would have been like, where's the person that's 21? Because they're the person that's going to be in trouble when we call the cops. Like, even if, because they didn't know at the time really what was going on, like, but that's usually how it goes. Like, hey, you're going, I'm calling the cops. You might want to get the beer out of here.
Or that's standard protocol, right? That's standard protocol, because if that 6-pack in the fridge has got 2 beers and those 2 beers are in somebody's room that they should be in,
kids don't realize.
Now graduation, your finals are over. You're sitting in you're getting a citation or who knows what goes with that. So people can read between the lines and understand what was probably going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. The back door, and you mentioned that maybe he'd been there before. I think everybody's seen this image where they use these stools to secure the back sliding glass door after the fact. Was it broken? Was there something wrong with it?
I've been told that all those doors do not work correctly. I want to say all, that there's a lot of construction that was done around the exact same time. So maybe that was just a certain area that hadn't been developed and then it got developed. So then those sliders are very common. So you can push the slider towards the lock and hit it and it will pop it up. So that was well known that those sliders weren't very secure at locking. So I don't have any idea that that's what this person did, but I was told that even if you lock that slider, that would be a place where you would want to, or you're a person who's going to sneak into somebody else's home, a burglar, that would be an ideal door to try to test.
Yeah. There was a time not too long ago where Ann Taylor was talking in one of her hearings, and they were mentioning that there wasn't any DNA of the victims inside his vehicle, but they mentioned something about being sprayed all over the place. And I don't know if that's something that maybe CSI guys did to try to find something, or is there maybe, are you aware if they found anything in the car that could lead to like maybe?
I'm glad you bring this up because nobody talks about this part. So don't believe me. Go do your own search. Go research. Go to a paid version of AI. There's some AIs that have legal descriptions and libraries. Go look up 6 weeks in a car. That DNA is gone. Even if you leave it there, it's going to be contaminated. It's going to degrade. So they were like, don't be surprised if we don't find anything in there because it's sitting in outdoor weather where it's going below freezing to up to 70 degrees. They literally looked at all the temperatures every single day that vehicle was outside. It wasn't garaged. So it's sitting in the baking sun, then going as cold as it possibly did. I think the coldest was something like 20-some degrees, and then the hottest it got was like 60-some degrees. But inside car, you amplify that right on up. So yeah, this individual cleaned. They sprayed with something, but even if they left something there, six weeks inside of a car, it wasn't going to come back. It wasn't. At least that's how it was described to me. This stuff's not going to come back. Or don't be surprised. They would have been very surprised if they found something that was usable. They're saying, no, it could be under a carpet seal or something to protect it. It would have needed something to protect it because if it was in direct sunlight, like literally in 24 hours, DNA can start becoming corrupt in sunlight, especially sunlight inside of a car. So, this stuff will probably be brought up in the trial, but I never hear anyone ever talk about, hey, this car literally drove from Washington all the way to Pennsylvania. That's a lot of exposure. I wonder if this person just cleaned it up, or if they found something, it just didn't come back as anything that was viable because it was 100% contaminated.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're hinting at. There was some contamination. I do know that the FBI went through that car piece by piece. And unlike some of these people, I think they do a very good job. And I think they're very skilled at what they do. And if they didn't find anything, then there wasn't much to be found. But again, there's definitely going to be a sense of some corruption. And they did find, like you said, there were some cleaning supplies that I hope that they can actually be traced back to a certain lab, because not everything is purchasable over the counter. There's certain things that you have to have a license to purchase.
Yeah, exactly. There's another
little bit of clarity, because people don't realize that, like the interviews that I do on some of the TV channels, they're pretty much live, and even if they're not live, they're not scripted in any shape or form. So we can't go into details like this. So I want to take advantage of it. On that Brian tally, his little thumbs up asshole pic. I think I figured it out. I think it's like 14 hours later, he's calling in sick.
He's pissed about that, but I'm gonna go back because I like it when he says that asshole.
So like the interviews that I do on some of the TV channels, they're pretty much live, and even if they're not live, they're not scripted in any shape or form. So we can't go into details like this. So I want to take advantage of it. On that Brian tally, his little thumbs up asshole pic. I think I figured it out. I think it's like 14 hours later, he's calling in sick for work.
Yeah.
And then
14 hours later, first time ever calling in. Gotta call. Can't study. Can't pass out papers today. I'm sick.
Only day he ever called. So he's obsessed with the crime that he did, and going through the media. This is all going to be part of his search history. You guys are all going to see it, and
he was probably
there's a
exhausted.
thing. There's exclusive knowledge. If you know about a certain part of a crime before it's made general public, or maybe before it even happens,
we might need that on a
it's pretty
shirt.
damning. To me, there's nothing more damage. But I also thought people would change their tune when the Amazon order puts the murder weapon in his house, and his own family's like wondering what the heck's going on. And when I say family, I believe it's just one sister that was really, really helpful, where the other people weren't so much helpful.
Well, I mean, they're pretty specific on the March 20th to March 30th time frame for that knife purchase. Yeah, 100%.
Somebody was able to tell them exactly when that happened, even though the history had been deleted. Why do you delete this? I mean, why would you delete that? If you're this outdoor hunter, CSI, because I hear all these people, oh, he's a CIS grad. He's going to have all this weird stuff. You're not going to have knowledge of a crime, bro. You're not going to have knowledge of the crime. That is not public knowledge. You're not going to have it. I don't care. And it doesn't explain doing surveys and doing all these weird things and creeping every girl out. And the list of the red flags is what really frustrates me, because this guy had been harassing girls all the way back to high school. We've talked to people all the way to high school. Like the girl that was literally like, he's obsessed with me. And it was like extremely embarrassing. I'd walk into the classroom and everyone was like, is he going to be that awkward weirdo that stares at you all day long? And so this goes all the way back to school, and they've interviewed and talked to all these different people. So it frustrates me that you can harass people at school, and because of the way the system is, you kind of go unnoticed. You kind of are able to pull it off because nobody wants to drag those victims into a court case. Nobody wants to do a police report, say this girl is absolutely petrified of this boy, and she's crying at night and all that kind of stuff. No, they basically remove the two and then pretend like it never happened. And that he had been removed from so many different situations because some girl came forward, all the way up to WSU, all the way to WSU. He was still getting away with it, still being able to harass these girls. And, it's a very frustrating thing to see how many failures led to your daughter's death.
Yeah.
And but we're working on we're working on this to make sure that we can pass some laws that try to help another family from having to go through a BK type because unfortunately this is probably going to lead. I mean, that Georgia kid was a fan of his. Georgia school shooter, I don't know his name.
I didn't know that.
Great.
Yeah, I remember.
Just happened. The Georgia school shooter, apparently he had a thing he said he was a pro burger. He said, I'm a pro burger. Like it's a freaking, it's been coined a term. Like, do we need to make shirts?
He called himself a pro burger.
So it's already happening. So when people see why I'm on a camera and why I'm talking about the death penalty and the firing squad, it's not that I'm into this stuff and I ever would have talked about it. It's just, I know there's fans, and trying to save another family in another school and another place of business from dealing with somebody like this. Dreams of Gander. He literally wrote about how he just felt like people were sacks of flesh.
Yeah. Okay. So that was like the end of it. That was I clipped pretty much the parts that we wanted to see. Like, the juicy stuff. But he did come out and say some things tonight. He did. I can't believe the whole punching Kaylee in the face thing. I mean, I don't even know. It had to have been more than one time, you would think. Because if you're stabbed to death, I would think that your eyes would be black and blue. I would think that would happen. That would be like that would happen. I don't know why. Maybe it wouldn't. And maybe that's how they knew he had punched her, because she did have like black eyes. But that's really sad. Oh, thanks, Betsy. Oh, it's called extensions. But I do use a lot of Nexus products. Actually, I use everything Nexus. I love their hair oil. Their hair oil is the best. It's the best. I put it in my hair all the time. But I need to I need to curl it. I need to get some of them little heatless curls. It's just snail mucin on my face and Nexus in the hair. Walking canes. There's a lady that has a walking cane around here. Vincent always, he's like, she's walking today. I'm like, she walks a lot. I mean, this woman lives here. She walks a lot. I think she doesn't walk when it's like raining, but if it's raining a little, she will. She did fight. And I think this is just my own personal thing. I think that she might have been in her own bedroom that night. And maybe heard something going on in Maddie's room and then went running that direction when she noticed somebody was in a room and it wasn't her boyfriend. And I think that she went in fighting. It's just, it's really sad. I don't know. We'll find out a lot more at trial, but just the whole, Ethan was such a big boy. I just don't know how. I mean, he had the knife, you know? Hide it from the sun with a cowboy hat. My dad used to wear a cowboy hat. My mom said one time she thought that Dwight Yoakam, she liked his music. She's like, I think he's handsome. My dad went out, y'all. My dad was a city boy from Philadelphia. He had on cowboy boots. He had on a Stetson, trench coat, like leather trench coat. He had the whole kit and caboodle. What else did he have? Got a guitar. He even went and got a guitar. An Alvarez, like a nice guitar. Like, if my mom likes something, my dad likes something. Snail mucus. Snail mucin. You think so too, Suzanne? Yeah, I think she was too. Yeah, he said once we know. Yep, he did. And I mean, I'm ready to know. I'm ready to know it all. Well, no, I'm not ready to know it all yet. Actually, I mean, we've been waiting 3 years, but I can wait a little longer. What are they? What are boom boom sticks? Because I do have allergies. I have really bad allergies. Actually, you know what? I only got one migraine this whole season. My neurologist was like, "That's really good." I was like, "Well, cool." But I think that's all I have for you guys for tonight. Y'all want to know what boomsticks are? Boom sticks. I have like something's itching me right here. Oh, that's my birthday month, Callie. Was it fun? Oh my God, I bet it was the best time ever. I would love nothing more. Wonder if he's still touring. I would love nothing more because I didn't get to see Tom Petty before he died. You know, my dad really liked Tom Petty too, but yeah, I would totally love to see Dwight Yoakam. Anytime my family, we in all of our emotions came out through the radio, like through the CD player or whatever it was we were playing at the time. You know, all of our music went through like that. Oh, they help open your head up with a burst of energy. Amazon has them. Oh, yes. And prayers are sent to you, true crime. Thanks, Southernish. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. You see, in the late 80s, I bet that was fun too. Because he was really moving and grooving then, you know? 80s. Because he looked like Dwight Yoakam. See, a lot more people know about Dwight Yoakam than I thought. I was cleaning the bathroom or something the other day, and I was in there singing, and I had my headphones in, so you can only hear me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just thinking like, is Vincent listening to this right now? But yes, I love Tom Petty. I love Tom Petty. My dad he always played music. Chicago was his band too. And I swear I can't do them songs that would make me cry. But you know, some music, it makes me just, oh, I can't. And I can't listen to 90s country. That always makes me tear up too. Reminds me of my brother. And he's still around and everything, but it just reminds me of him and us being little. I don't know. You did. You did get Annie Elise to send me that video. It's still on my shorts. I love that. We were actually watching something from her the other day. Oh, thanks, Mary Beth. I love you too. I think I was made to do true crime. If my dad was here, he'd be right here with me. But yes, I'm gonna jump off of here. You had his cassette? Oh my gosh, I don't. The last cassette I bought was Shania Twain. I had her cassette. I still have it. It's in a box out in the shed. It was my mom's. It was me and my mom's. We used to listen to it together, so I still have it. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful Sunday tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow evening on the live. If I do jump on to do a members live, it'll either be tomorrow or Monday. I'll let you guys know for sure on the community post. That way you guys don't miss it. I'll put it in a couple hours in advance. But have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys all back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to live this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it out tonight. We're gonna let it out tonight. We're gonna let it out just like the sunrise. We're gonna let it out now. Just like a spark that spreads